Chapter 1: The Edge of the Known. The research vessel Orion slowly glided beyond the boundary of the solar system, leaving behind the last whispers of familiar stars. Its hull, sleek and matte black, shimmered faintly under distant starlight. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, but not from fear, rather, a sense of anticipation. The crew knew they were crossing into a place where no human had ever gone. Captain William Hayes stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the deep dark beyond. A man of few words and iron discipline, he had been chosen not only for his leadership but for his unwavering dedication to duty. Only he knew the true goal of this mission, a secret directive passed to him by the commander of the space forces before launch. Their destination was the Magellanic Cloud, a region where, half a century ago, telescopes had detected strange energy bursts, remnants of what might have been a devastating battle between unknown forces. His task was simple in wording, but near impossible in execution: find the source, retrieve any technology if possible, and return alive. The rest of the crew believed the mission was purely scientific. They were explorers, researchers, and technicians, eager to uncover the secrets of deep space. Orion operated in rotating shifts, 2 crews alternating month by month. This system maintained sharpness and helped manage the stress of long-term space travel. Commander Sarah Mitchell, responsible for overseeing internal operations, walked onto the bridge. All systems green, Captain. First scan cycle in progress. We'll be reaching our initial mapping point in 6 hours. Good, Hayes replied, not turning his eyes from the stars. Let's make history, Commander. In the science bay, the lead astrophysicist, Dr. Michael Reed, studied the early data coming in from the outer sensor arrays. The surrounding space appeared unusually calm, too calm. No stray particles, no radiation echoes from nearby stars. It was as if this patch of the cosmos had been scrubbed clean. He frowned and made a note. Elsewhere, the crew moved with a rhythm they had trained for years to perfect. Technicians ran diagnostics on life support systems. Engineers checked thrusters and energy cores. Every system was optimal. Every movement was precise. But beneath the surface of discipline and order, excitement buzzed like static. Humanity had reached a new frontier. Orion itself was a marvel. Built with the latest tech after a rapid technological leap in the 2020s and 2030s, when corporations joined the space race, it was one of only a few vessels capable of deep space research. Its hull was reinforced with an experimental composite. Its sensors could scan light years ahead. And its engine, based on an exotic particle drive, made interstellar travel a reality, barely. As the stars wheeled in silence, a low chime sounded on the bridge. "Captain, we're picking up something," Mitchell said, eyes narrowing as data scrolled across her console. "A distortion. Gravity fluctuation. Very faint, but definitely not natural." Hayes straightened. "Source?" "About 12,000 clicks ahead. It's not moving." "Change course," he ordered. "Let's take a closer look." Moments later, the main screen flickered to life with a magnified image, scattered fragments suspended in the void. Shards of something metallic, too organized to be natural debris. The faint signature of decayed propulsion residue, 50 years old, maybe more. And something else. A shape half-shrouded in shadow. "Is that a hull?" Reed asked over the comm. "Could be," Mitchell answered. "Or what's left of one." The bridge fell silent. They were looking at the first trace of an alien vessel, possibly the aftermath of that distant, violent clash seen only as flashes of light decades ago. Captain Hayes allowed himself a breath. This was just the beginning. Chapter 2: Traces in the Dark. The scanning of the surrounding space began the moment the debris had been detected. Orion's deep-range sensors worked at full capacity, casting invisible beams into the void as if groping for walls in the darkness. It quickly became clear, the space here was unclean. Gravitational distortions emerged, faint, but distinct. Echoes of powerful interactions long past. The ship's computers registered fluctuations in spatial density, along with fragments of distant, broken signals, like shreds of forgotten words drifting through eternity. "It could be the remnants of battle maneuvers," said Dr. Reed, standing before a shimmering holographic display. "Or something else. But this isn't a natural phenomenon." On the monitors, traces of hull plating slowly came into focus, massive fragments half consumed by cosmic dust, disturbed only by the ship's most powerful scanners. The ship itself was gone. No recognizable shape or structure, only hints, like a lingering ghost. The scientists were thrilled. Their voices grew louder, movements sharper. This was it, the first real confirmation that humanity was not alone. A first encounter, even if only with wreckage. But the technicians felt something different. Engineers and systems specialists, the ones responsible for life support and structural integrity, felt a growing unease. It defied explanation. The space itself felt wrong. "These fragments are strange," said communications engineer Mark Grayson. "The material doesn't reflect scanners like it should. And some areas look scorched, but not by plasma or lasers, something else did this. We need to send a team down and collect samples," said Dr. Reed with barely restrained excitement. "If we can determine the composition and age. We can't get detailed scans from orbit," confirmed Sarah Mitchell. "Too much interference from the nearby star. It's saturating every frequency." Captain Hayes listened in silence. His expression was unreadable. He knew these fragments might be tied to his mission's hidden objective. But something about them was off. This wasn't just space junk. This was a threshold. "Prepare the landing module," he ordered finally. "Collect samples. Follow strict protocol." On board Orion, the crew sprang into motion. Scientists rushed to gather their gear, spectrometers, portable scanners, reinforced suits. Inside each of them, hearts pounded faster, fear and awe tangled together. Orion hovered like a phantom in the void, watching. In the distance, a piece of mangled metal slowly rotated among the stars. Across its surface, a deep gash shimmered faintly, as if clawed by something colossal, its strength still echoing in the cold silence of space. Chapter 3: The Silent Drone. Before risking human lives, the Orion crew opted for caution. A reconnaissance drone was launched, small, fast, and equipped with the latest in high-resolution scanning technology. It detached smoothly from the ship's belly, its engines humming softly as it drifted toward the debris field. Inside the control room, tension ran high. The drone's camera feed appeared on the main screen, twisted metal, ruptured frames, and scorched surfaces slid slowly past in eerie silence. Stabilizers engaged. "Drone is approaching the largest fragment," reported Systems Officer Alan Brooks, his voice steady despite the flicker of anxiety in his eyes. The drone's sensors began relaying data, metallic composition unlike anything found in human construction, traces of radiation long decayed, and microfractures that suggested a violent and sudden impact. Everyone watched intently as the drone neared what appeared to be a partially intact structure. But then, the screen flickered. A sharp static buzz filled the air, and the live feed dissolved into distortion. The room fell silent as Brooks scrambled to re-establish the connection. "We've lost visual," he said, fingers flying across the console. "Signal degradation, no, it's a hard disconnect." "Diagnostics," the captain ordered. Telemetry cut off mid-transmission. No warning, no interference spike, it just stopped. Seconds passed. Then minutes. No response from the drone. Dr. Reed leaned forward, staring at the dark screen. "It's as if something swallowed the signal. Or jammed it deliberately," muttered Grayson. Captain Hayes remained calm, but his jaw tightened. "Try again. Switch relays." Bounce through the backup satellite if you have to. They tried everything, alternate frequencies, rerouted channels, signal boosters, but the drone remained silent. No movement, no data, no transmission. Just silence. Then, without warning, the feed returned. For less than 2 seconds. A blur of light. A flash of something, perhaps a reflection. A faint sound, like metal being torn underwater. Then darkness again. That night, no one on Orion slept well. The data from the short transmission was inconclusive. The drone's systems had been intact up until the moment of blackout. Power reserves full. No collision alerts. It simply stopped. And somewhere out there, in the black sea of stars, a silent warning seemed to linger. The debris wasn't just wreckage. It was watching. Chapter 4, First Contact. After the drone's disappearance, tension on the Orion grew thick and heavy. But Captain Hayes couldn't allow fear to derail the mission. The wreckage might hold invaluable data, perhaps even evidence of an intelligent alien civilization. Or something far more dangerous. A decision was made: a landing team would be deployed to explore the site directly. The landing party included astrophysicist Dr. Rachel Reed, engineer James Grayson, and biologist Alice Munro. Accompanying them were 2 support technicians and a pilot. Due to heavy electromagnetic interference from the nearby star, the area was impossible to scan from orbit. Everything would have to be done by hand. Seal integrity confirmed. Life support stable. Ready for descent, came the calm voice over the comms. The module detached with a subtle jolt, and the soft hum of engines filled the cabin. Through the front viewport, the wreckage loomed larger with every passing moment. Enormous, ancient, warped by time and violence, they looked less like shattered machines and more like titanic statues frozen in space. "I didn't expect them to look so organic," Alice whispered. "This isn't just metal," Grayson added, his eyes tracking the twisted contours. "These structures, they look like they grew." The approach was cautious. The team began with a surface inspection. A thick layer of cosmic dust clung to most of the hull, but here and there, marks peeked through, scratch-like grooves, or were they writing? Inside one of the shattered compartments, they were met with complete silence. Only the faint crackle of instruments disturbed the stillness. They moved slowly, reverently, as if stepping into a sacred tomb. The atmosphere was strange, not threatening, but undeniably alien. "No radiation," Rachel muttered. "But I'm picking up low-frequency pulses. Weak, barely detectable. Almost like biological rhythms." Grayson reached out with a sampling tool, aiming to collect material from the wall. But the instant the probe touched the surface, the signal surged. "Did you hear that?" Alice gasped. "What?" "The signal. It came again. Clearer this time. It sounded like it was directed at us." Suddenly, their instruments began to fail. Cameras flickered, sensors returned nonsense. And then, silence. But something had changed in them. They didn't know what it was. But they knew one thing for certain. It wasn't dead. Chapter 5, The Return. The shift change took place under a heavy, oppressive silence. Those returning from the debris expedition looked tense, some even haunted, though none of them spoke openly about it. Everyone kept up a professional front, as they'd been trained to, but the unease was palpable, leaking out in glances and posture, in the way their hands lingered near controls just a second too long. When the second shift took their stations, the atmosphere aboard Orion had changed. It was subtle, a stiffness in voices, an extra layer of caution in routine actions, but unmistakable. Something was wrong, even if no one could quite say what. The official report from the first shift was precise and technical, but sterile. It told of radiation readings, metallic composition, signal fragments. But those who had been down there, they remembered the signal. The whisper. It had barely registered, just a faint echo, there and gone, but it had carved itself into memory like frost on glass. Even days after returning, some of them still felt it. Not heard, felt. Like a low hum beneath their thoughts, impossible to trace, impossible to forget. And Orion itself was beginning to act off. Temperatures in some compartments began to fluctuate erratically. A key control panel in the engineering bay rebooted itself without reason. Internal communications would flicker off for a few seconds, then return as if nothing had happened. One glitch could be a coincidence. 2, an unfortunate pattern. But these were too specific, too targeted. It's probably residual static from the local radiation, the lead systems engineer said, but even he sounded unconvinced. Still, it's hitting only critical sectors. That's not random. Captain Hayes noted everything. He said little, but his attention was razor-sharp. He already knew Orion had entered a region where randomness came dressed in patterns. The new crew tried to focus, carrying on with their scientific scans and routine maintenance. But more and more of them began to report oddities. Far compartments produced faint, rhythmic noises, like footsteps muffled by metal walls. Some claimed to see movement just out of view, shadows that lingered a moment longer than they should. Instruments showed nothing. But the feeling remained. Fatigue, they told themselves. Psychological stress, others said. But no one joked. No one laughed. Something aboard Orion had changed, and everyone felt it. Chapter 6, Divergence. The tension on Orion reached a boiling point. In the main briefing room, under the subdued lighting of the ship's artificial evening, a heated argument unfolded. Captain Marcus Hale stood with arms crossed, his face unreadable, while Dr. Ethan Carter, the ship's lead astrophysicist, paced restlessly before the main display. "We have to investigate the surrounding sector," Ethan insisted, tapping the holographic star chart where unexplained anomalies blinked faintly in red. "These signatures, gravitational distortions, fragmented signals, something's out there. Maybe more wreckage, maybe a beacon. We can't just turn away." "We're not turning away," Hale replied calmly. "We're staying the course." "That's not good enough." Ethan's voice cracked with frustration. "This is the first concrete evidence of alien contact, and we're just going to log it and leave? Do you realize what we could be missing?" The room fell into a strained silence. Several crew members shifted uncomfortably. Hale's gaze remained fixed on Ethan. "This ship has a primary directive. We're not here to chase every curiosity the void throws at us. Our mission path is clear and carefully calculated." "Calculated to avoid answers?" Ethan muttered. Hale's jaw tensed. For a moment, it seemed the captain might reveal more, but he caught himself. "I'm not ignoring your findings, Doctor. But we can't afford to drift off course indefinitely. I'll authorize a 3-day detour. Scan the surrounding zone, deploy drones, gather everything you can. After that, we move forward. No further debate." Ethan hesitated, then gave a short, reluctant nod. "Understood." The meeting dissolved into quiet murmurs. The scientists moved quickly to begin preparations, while the rest of the crew exchanged glances. Some admired Hale's control, others questioned what he wasn't saying. Outside the ship, the stars remained silent. But something in the dark was listening. Chapter 7, A Shadow in the Wake. It had been just over a day since Orion deviated from its original course. The science team worked almost without rest, analyzing strange signals, launching drones, collecting telemetry. But the results were troublingly vague. Every signal was distorted, as if something, or someone, was deliberately masking the source. Tension on board was growing. The data from the probes contradicted one another. Some indicated the presence of a massive object nearby, others claimed there was nothing at all. Instruments picked up a low-frequency pulse, while others reported dead silence. Engineers monitoring the ship's systems noticed unsettling anomalies. Orion's trajectory kept shifting by tiny margins, fractions of a degree, requiring constant manual correction. It felt as if something unseen was nudging them through space. On the second day of scanning, one of the outer-range drones vanished. Not just silent, gone. No telemetry, no beacon, no trace. It had simply disappeared into the void. He couldn't have just vanished, whispered the communications operator, frantically rerunning diagnostics. It's like someone cut him off mid-broadcast. The captain watched events unfold with measured calm, recording everything in his personal log. He didn't show concern, but his sharp gaze betrayed a quiet unease. He didn't like how alive this sector felt, with phenomena that fit no known model. That night, space itself seemed to press against the ship. Over the internal comms, strange interference began to hum and crackle, a low rasp that, at times, sounded like fragments of speech. The scientists insisted it was background noise, but a few crew members swore they heard words in a language they couldn't identify. Lieutenant Jensen, one of the technicians, managed to capture a snippet and ran it through the onboard AI linguist. The translation came back with chilling simplicity: "You are too close." A short emergency council followed. The captain gave the order to abort the scan and return to the main trajectory. There were no objections. As Orion fired its engines and slipped away from the anomaly zone, a sense of relief spread through the crew. But astrophysicist Carter lingered at the observation window, his expression dark. In the black sea of stars behind them, something flickered. Was it just his imagination, or was a shadow truly following them? Chapter 8. The silence after the echo. The Orion slowly drifted away from the zone where, not long ago, the crew had been fully immersed in intense investigation. The alien wreckage now lay behind them, but the sense that part of it had come aboard with them lingered in every corridor and glance. The ship's systems gradually stabilized. Communication no longer faltered. Temperatures across the decks returned to normal. Even the lighting regained its usual soft, ambient glow. Yet the crew felt no relief. On the contrary, the return to routine felt disturbingly artificial. In the science bay, the team was examining the collected samples. The astrophysicists struggled to categorize fragments that fit no known material classification. The biologists stared, transfixed, at one particular substance that displayed irregular molecular fluctuations, as if it were changing by itself. "Almost like it's alive," murmured Jennifer, eyes fixed on the screen. "Or worse," said Engineer Travis, arms crossed. "Maybe it just remembers being alive." "Or worse still," he added after a pause, "maybe it's waiting." From the command post, Captain Logan Carter observed the discussion in silence. A flight trajectory hovered in the center of the holodisplay. The course was set. His decision made. The voices of the scientists were like echoes from a distant room, passionate, intelligent, but irrelevant to the one burdened with the weight of final judgment. At the emergency briefing, he had issued a clear directive: all samples were to be sealed in autonomous containment units with no connection to the ship's main systems. "We don't know what we're dealing with," he said calmly. "For now, it's just an object of study. But this ship is our life. I won't gamble it." Some of the scientists protested. One even accused him of being afraid of knowledge. The captain let them speak. He didn't mention the things he'd read in mission logs, what happened to people when they touched the edge of understanding too early. He knew the cost of knowledge. And the price of duty. That night, while the Orion cruised ahead and the stars outside the viewport stretched into silvery lines, the captain sat alone in his quarters. He activated the personal log. Captain Logan Carter. Day 78. We've left the wreckage zone. Systems are stable. The crew is functioning. But something's changed. Unseen. Deeper than any diagnostics could detect. He paused, eyes on the drifting starlight. Sometimes I think space isn't empty. It's a mirror. It doesn't speak or offer answers. It just reflects. Our fears. Our ambition. Our courage, and our blindness. We came looking for answers. But maybe, we woke something that should have remained asleep. He turned off the log. The silence of the ship seemed to press in from all sides. Somewhere deep in his mind, a pulse stirred, not a sound or a thought, but a sensation. As if someone, somewhere, already knew they were coming. The Orion continued on into the unknown. The Magellanic Cloud still lay impossibly far ahead. But this was no longer just a journey through space, it was a passage into the dark parts of the universe, where every kilometer posed a new question, and every shadow hinted at something older than time. And the greatest question of all was beginning to echo louder. Who waits on the other side of the stars?